here we go. My top 10 toys that made me. All right, these are the 10 toy lines that made my childhood so special. Let's get to it. My number 10 is a little known. Well, I think most people now won't recognize it, but back in the mid '90s, there was a short period of time where this was one of the coolest shows. All right, they were a bit of like a knockoff Power Ranger, but I'm gonna go with the Beetleborgs. All right, I don't remember the names of any characters. I don't remember. I know there's the guy with the kind of the like a clown, like a Joker face. He kind of looked like Jay Leno. His face did. I don't know. But I loved Beetleborgs, the show, growing up because there was a bunch of kids, and then they got to transform into these cool Power Ranger knockoffs. And there was the song was cool. The intro song was really cool. I had a bunch of the toys growing up. I remember a first or second grade birthday, so it would have been 7, 8 years old. I remember I had some of the individual figures. And I remember one of the times I actually got like a tower that held the Beetleborg Zords. I really don't remember what they're called, but yeah, Bandai made these action figures, and they were pretty cool. Big part. I love the little tower. I loved getting additional vehicles. A lot of fun with Beetleborg action figures, and especially how much I loved those for a short period of time. Very, very important part of my childhood. And I've met a few people who have good memories of Beetleborgs, whether it was the show, whether it was some of the toys. I think it only lasted like 2 or 3 years. Really, really popular for one, but very, very proud and very, very thankful for the Beetleborgs toys that I had and those who gifted them to me when I was a child. My number nine. I was a big Looney Tunes guy growing up. And there was a great movie that came out in the middle of the 90s with the Looney Tunes and with a special guy by the name of Michael Jordan. It was called Space Jam. And they had an entire toy line of Space Jam toys. All the Looney Tunes, several NBA players, including Michael Jordan, in gear, in Toon Squad gear, and they had some of the little aliens. I forget what their names were, but the Space Jam toys were really cool for me because, again, I love Looney Tunes. I grew up in an era where Looney Tunes were very prominent. I was watching them all the time. And like we had a cool Warner Brothers store at the Walden Galleria Mall in the 90s. This store was awesome, and not only was this Warner Brothers store there, the Galleria Mall had this cool Looney Tunes aesthetic where there was like a big Bugs Bunny statue, a big Daffy Duck statue. There was a cool like water fountain display around like the elevator, but like the whole mall was themed Looney Tunes. And I was just obsessed. I was absolutely obsessed. But I remember I had several of the toys. I had Bugs Bunny. I had Daffy Duck. I had Sylvester. I'm pretty sure I had a Taz. And I might have had a Lola Bunny. But, of course, I had a couple different variations of Michael Jordan, too. But it was just cool that I can have these Looney Tunes toys and feel a basketball team. And while they weren't really the most prominent part of any of my toy wars, they still participated. They had cool. They could do cool stuff and things. The little basketball toys, or the little basketball toys that came with each and every single one of these figures. They were cool. They were just really cool, and actually they still go for really cheap. The resale market on Space Jam toys is not all that great, but it is a fond memory for myself. I remember a Christmas where I got one from some family member. Space Jam comes in at number 9. Number 8. My favorite video game as a child was Crash Bandicoot. And I remember flipping out when I first discovered that there was a Crash Bandicoot toy line. And one of the end caps at my local Toys R Us, they had these toys, and it was really cool. The box was green, and these like these big very big, heavy figures. They were really cheaply made because I had several, and they all kind of broke, which pissed me off. But a toy company called Resource made these Crash Bandicoot figures, and for me that was everything. Like the fact that I could go play a video game and then go have extra adventures with these characters outside of it was cool to me. And they were, like I said, they were cheaply made, but they looked fantastic. And they had so many different variations. I had a jetpack Crash. I had a surfer Crash. I had a regular basic Crash. And they came with these really cool, like additional figures, like additional little pieces. Like they had the Uka Uka mask or Aku Aku mask, depending on if you got a hero or villain. You get the plastic crystal with some of them, which I always loved. I always loved getting the plastic crystals and just holding on to them for my own sake. Some of them came with Wumpa Fruit. A lot of them came with the crates, which Crash jumps on in the video games. I had several of these figures. And I remember the first time one of them broke, I was so upset. So upset that this toy was broken. So it was cool. It was my favorite for a brief amount of time. But in fact, actually, I have a very funny memory, a very funny Christmas memory. The only time I ever got jealous of somebody getting, okay, that's a lie. One of the few times that I got jealous of somebody getting something for Christmas was actually, it was probably not at second grade, third grade time point, 1998, 1999. We're sitting there at our big family Christmas toy, Christmas present gathering. We usually do a big party with cousins, aunts, uncles, and whatnot. And it's the best part of Christmas sometimes. And we're sitting there waiting for our gifts. So all the cousins sit and line up, and then every aunt uncle pair gives everybody from that group the gift. And I get this one, and it's a like Tonka like construction worker action figure that I had gotten from the same person for my birthday back in May. And I was like, okay. And then I look next to me, and my cousin Nico, who had never played a Crash Bandicoot game in his life, opens up this big, massive Komodo Joe, who was one of the villains in the second Crash game. Opens it up. It's got these bunch of swords. I remember clearly, he doesn't even play Crash Bandicoot. I remember saying that out loud. And I was like flabbergasted, mind blown. So not only did I receive a toy that I had already received that year from the same person, I had to watch my cousin Nico open up a toy that I would have loved to have. And he was asking me questions about. And it's a fun memory for me. It's funny in hindsight, but I remember being heated about that. But Crash Bandicoot, my number 8 favorite action figure toy line. I had so many of them, including the villains. Very, very expensive on the resale market. I've seen a lot of them go for hundreds of dollars. That's how coveted these toys are nowadays. All right, let's go to my number 7. And this is a variety of different Batman action figures, okay? There's a Batman. There's a Legends of Batman run. Really, really cool box art for the early 90s. And I remember being a lot of variants. Kenner was the one who made them. All right, Kenner's the one who produced them, which is really cool. We're going to talk a little bit more about Kenner down the road. But Kenner, great lineage of toy making. But this Batman run was so much fun. I don't even remember getting some of these toys, but I remember just having a plethora. I remember having a plethora of Batman toys with various different costumes, different gadgets. I remember I had a Halloween-themed one that was black and orange. I had one that was like green. It was like a seaweed green color. A lot of different varieties of Batmans. Like, I couldn't believe how many they were producing, but it's Batman, so they were probably making money hand over fist. But I actually have 2 very, very fond memories, and actually these are to my recollection, earliest childhood memories around Batman toys. So the first one, growing up, and I remember I grew up in a mobile home. Actually, they both stem from the mobile home, but I remember I was 3 or 4 years old, and I was sitting on the couch in our living room, and my Mima was there, and her mother, my great grandmother, I believe it would be Nani or not Nani or Nana. It's been a long time, Unfortunately, neither of them are with us, unfortunately. So it's been a long time since I've used the Nani or Nana term, um, but I remember having this Robin toy, and I loved Robin. I thought Robin was the coolest thing. I've always had a fascination for sidekicks, and Robin was really cool. And he had this cape that it was removable. I remember my Mima actually, she kept flipping it around on me. I go, no, like, what are you doing? Like, this is, not that I knew what the term was back then, but it's sacrilege. How dare you? But it was making me laugh, and it was making her laugh, and it was really just fun having them sit there and witness this. But that's one of my earliest memories. And the other one, and this is why like I get so like warm and fun when I talk about like my dad and toys. I remember waking up one morning, again 3, 4 years old, and I still remember the whole layout of our old mobile home. Still remember it. I walk out of my room, and I start walking towards the living room, and my dad's standing in the kitchen area, which is on the other like complete end of this mobile home, and he goes, "Hey, I got something for you." And I walk into the living room. I walk up to him, and the kitchen part is like elevated, like there's a little staircase, and he's kind of hovering over me a little bit. And he pulls out this Riddler action figure, which I'm going to put on display. Yeah, right there. And I remember just being blown away, like so excited that I wake up to a toy. I wake up to a brand new toy that my dad just had ready for me. I don't know why. It was probably, knowing my dad, it was a just because gift, which are sometimes the best kind of gifts. But I remember just being so excited. And from that point on, Riddler has been my favorite Batman villain because of this early childhood memory. I don't even know if my dad remembers it. It could be a complete throwaway moment in memory for him. But I remember it fondly. And it is one of my earliest memories as a kid is waking up to have that Riddler action figure. I don't know where it is. If I did ever seen this figure in public, I would buy it in a heartbeat, because that is how much it means to me in that moment and retroactively, like just looking back, and like it means a lot. So that is my number 7. Batman, Legends of Batman run by Kenner. That's that. Number 6. My number 6 is from one of my favorite childhood movies, another favorite childhood movie, Toy Story, and it was a Woody doll that I got. I got it in Disney World. It was 1997. I've talked about it on the vacations list, but it was 1997. We go to Disney World. I believe we're in Magic Kingdom. And very early in our day, I remember coming across this Woody doll, and my parents knew how much I loved Toy Story, and they decided to buy it for me. And we went to this restaurant for breakfast, like right after, like not too long after that. I remember I was just like, I was holding the box, like I wanted to open it so bad. It was torturous because it was the morning. We had a whole day to go ahead of us. And yeah, I remember that thing. I wanted to be Andy so bad, so bad. I wanted to walk around Magic Kingdom, walk around Disney World with this Woody doll on my back and just hanging off my bed, on my shoulders, and pal around with him, because he was my favorite character in Toy Story. I have no idea where that toy went, and it legitimately breaks my heart that I don't know where it went, because I think it might have ripped or became torn at some point, like an irreplaceably torn. In fact, I was actually looking for it, looking for something. I was looking for toys for my thumbnail picture, which you already have seen at this point, and I found a Woody's hat, but it had my brother's name inside of it, and but I couldn't find the actual main doll, so I don't know what happened to it. He did receive one later down the line, but yeah, I loved this thing. I couldn't wait to come back home from vacation. I was in kindergarten at the time, spring of '97, and show everybody. Like, we used to do show and tell, I think every Fridays, and you get a if you had something you wanted to show, you do it. And I came home and I showed off this Woody toy, and I was so excited for it. Pulled the drawstring, and you know, all the there's a snake in my boot, and all the quotes from the movie, and it just melted my heart, my young 5 going on 6-year-old heart, and I really wish I still had that thing because it was tremendous. So that is my number 6, the Woody toy. Number 5, growing up in the 90s, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was a rite of passage. Like you just had to have it, right? It just felt like it was necessary. You were watching it on television. There was some really cool toys, and there's actually a couple different variations of toys that we're going to be talking about. But the prominent one, the first one and the prominent one are the head flippers. All right. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers toy line was made by Bandai and Hasbro cooperatively, and these head flippers were revolutionary. They were one of the, like, they're still iconic. Like, if you look up a list of, like, the top 10 90s toys, the Power Rangers head flips they're going to make it 10 times out of 10. That's just, that's how iconic they were. And if you've never seen it, there's plenty of videos, but what they would do is they would have their normal human face, and you'd push down on this little, like, on their belt, and their head would flip into their Power Ranger helmet. And just so iconic. And a lot of different toy properties tried that. I think McDonald's or one of those, they had like a Spider-Man toy that did that, where his head it was Peter Parker's face, and you hit something and it flipped into Spider-Man, like him with the Spider-Man mask on. But those Power Rangers toys were iconic. I had just about all of them. There was also some bigger ones that didn't do the head flip, but they were just a little bit taller, maybe like an 8-10 inch like tall figure. There was super posable, super don't fail me now. Starts with an A. Super oh God. I do this every time. I remember the phrase until I have to talk about it, until I hit record. Like, it's just like oh God, I'm gonna remember it eventually. All right, I remembered it. I took a brief, like, mental lapse there. Articulation, I finally did it. They had incredible articulation. In fact, even the smaller ones, the head flips had them. There was also some really cool ones that when the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie came out, they had the ninja toys for all the characters. That was really cool. They had the ninja toys. And I remember the only time I got the Zords. Oh, wait, I just remembered another one. Well, there's other Zords, but I had the Red Dragon Zord from, like, season 2. I remember I had that. It can change and stuff. I remember having that around. That was a cool toy. Oh, I'd love to find that. But I also had the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie toy. Like, that was one of the few times I got the Zords. There was a lot of cool Zord toys, but I got the movie one where it was the bear, the wolf, the frog, the ape, the crane. Had that so they can come together. But the cool thing about it was my cousin had the Falcon Zord. So that was one of those trade-off things where, hey, if we're hanging out, let's bring them together and mash them up. So a lot of great memories around Power Rangers, and even just not even just toys, just playing make-believe. It was so cool. It's Morphin Time, all that stuff. Like, it was so intense. So yeah, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, number 5. Number 4. Oh, this one is so important to me. It's so important to me. I have another great memory with my dad about it, but let me set it up first. Wrestling toys. Wrestling toys were a huge part of my childhood. I had the WCW ones, from Toy Biz. I had WWF, the Jakks Pacific, whatever you want to call it. I had a lot of those. I loved having wrestler toys growing up because at that time I was really starting to get into wrestling. I was kind of allowed to watch it. I had several video games at that point, including around the time I really started collecting wrestling toys. It was WWF Warzone, which the playability is just horrendous, but yeah, it's a lot of great memories with it. I remember there was a huge aisle at the local Toys R Us that had it. Had just all just there was a WWF section. Here's a WCW section, and I liked the WCW figures a lot more. I really did. There was a lot more articulation. I remembered. I almost forgot it again. There was a lot more articulation with the WCW figures. I always found. I know there was a Kevin Nash figure that was my favorite to beat up on. He didn't like doing the JOB in a wrestling ring, but actually he wasn't too bad about it. He wasn't too bad about it. I'm being harsh, but he was like flexible. Like the foot was flexible, the knees were flexible, the whole leg was flexible, his elbows, like all his joints, and he could the way he posed, you could do just about any finishing move on him, and he could actually do other ones pretty good too. I remember having a Hollywood Hogan, which I was really excited about. It was my first and to my recollection, only Hulk Hogan toy that I ever had. But I had a lot of WCW ones. I had Goldberg, but because I didn't have a Steve Austin WWF one, my Goldberg would double as Steve Austin, which I'm sure neither of them would like to hear, but always found that really cool. The WWF ones were weird. Like it was the limbs weren't super articulate. They didn't bend at the joints like knees or arm or elbows. It was just really the whole arm, but they were rubber, and then the body and head were kind of like a hard plastic. It was a weird combination, very strange. But I love them to death. But here's the story with my dad. So I can play with just about any toy anywhere. I don't necessarily need like play sets or any of that stuff, but I feel like if you have a wrestling toy or have wrestling toys, you absolutely 100% need a ring. Now, there were rings available at that time, but they were just kind of expensive and whatnot. And I say whatnot a lot, too, on this show. I have to work on that. But I could have went out and bought them, but there was no need to because my dad one day woke up and decided, hey, I'm going to build you a wrestling ring. I'm going to build it from wood. He got some wood and built a 12 by 12, it's probably maybe a foot and a half by a foot and a half wrestling ring for me out of wood, nails, and rubber bands. And again, just such fondness for what my dad did for toys with me, because he took effort to make that. Right, he got some flat boards, got some 2x4s, and nailed the stuff in. The nails he had nails for turnbuckles, and we used rubber bands for ring ropes. And I always carried a bag of rubber bands with me everywhere I went in case one of the rubber bands broke. But I love that. I love that he took the time to make me a wrestling ring, and I adored that thing. And there was a point where like wrestling was just so bad that I couldn't watch. I wasn't allowed to watch it anymore because it was just I don't know. And I eventually lost interest in wrestling. Unfortunately, I have no idea what happened to that ring, but I wish I still had it because it's like it's just another token of love for my dad to me. That it was literally made with love. It's like cooking food. You know what I mean? My mom would cook food made with love. And this is my dad's way of doing that. Was making a wrestling ring and other fun memories. But yeah, yeah. WWF, WCW, wrestling toys. That is my number 4. Number 3. One of the craziest pop culture trends that I have ever lived through was Star Wars. Okay, and I was there for the rebirth of Star Wars. Star Wars Episode 1, dropping in 1999. I remember going to Kmart. They had all the signage hanging up, these like cardboard posters of the various characters like Anakin and Qui-Gon and Darth Maul and Watto and Captain Panaka and all. They had it all throughout the store, but the merchandise was just off the hook. I had several variations of Star Wars figures, but the Episode 1 ones were my gateway into this world, so I speak very fondly of those. Episode 1 was made by Hasbro, and there was a bit of an overabundance of these figures, but any chance that I got to collect episode 1 figures, I remember a lot of chore money, a lot of birthday money and stuff went to Star Wars toys because that's how much I loved them, right? The lightsaber accessories were so cool, and they were great until you lost them, and then you had to use your imagination a bit. But I had all of them. I had Obi-Wan, I had Qui-Gon, I had Darth Maul, I had Captain Panaka, I had Queen Amidala, I had Anakin, I had some of the pod racers, I'd have some random Naboo security guards. I had a Darth Sidious one, and I think I still have it to this day. I think it's in my drawer at home. But I loved it because Star Wars, I was just coming into my own with Star Wars, and it was everything to me. It was my whole world. But I also collected, I had Power of the Force, which was kind of around that time. It was more focused on the original trilogy and some of the expanded universe. Well, not expanded universe at that time. Now it's considered Legends, but I guess it was expanded universe at that point. I'm sure there's a correct term for it. But I remember I had an old Ben Kenobi toy, and for some reason it had a green lightsaber. It was weird. And there was a green lightsaber with it. But also, on top of all of that, my dad passed down his OG Kenner Star Wars figures to me. I had Pilot Luke, I had Han Solo, I had Boba Fett, I had Dengar, I had a Stormtrooper. I feel like there was other ones. I know that when we were moving, so I grew up in the house that my dad grew up living in. We the mobile home shtick, and then we stayed in an apartment for a little while, and then we eventually moved into the house where my dad grew up in. And we were getting the basement set, and I remember them pulling an OG Yoda figure out, like an old Empire Strikes Back Yoda figure out of one of the pipes. I have no idea how it got there. I have no idea what happened to this figure after discovering it, but I thought it was the coolest thing that it was found. Because my dad grew up in a great era of toys as well. That late 70s, early 80s period, and he had a lot of cool stuff. But even beyond that, when I started collecting toys, I would collect, episode 2, around that time, I'd collect those figures. But that's not the focus of this episode. It's the ones that really made my childhood. And episode 1, oh God, I had a lot. Episode 1, that time frame, was one of my favorite toys to have. So that's my number 3. Number two is Pokemon, another very crazy craze that I was a part of. And man, Pokemon toys were plentiful. They were going quick. They were flying off the shelves, but there was an overabundance of them too. But they are a hot commodity even till this day. Very hard to find in the resale market, that's for sure. But I remember going to Hills back in the day, which is a great department store in the area. And they had a whole aisle of these toys, and they would come in 2 and 3 packs. It was always nice because if you wanted, Squirtle was one of my favorites, right? So I'm getting a Squirtle toy, but on top of it, I'd also get War Turtle and Blastoise. Those were coming with me. And they were only that big, 2-3 inches maybe. And I just love that, if you wanted one, you got 3, right? You get those. You want Pikachu, you're getting a Raichu with it. If you want a legendary bird, you're getting Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno. I had a lot of them. There was a lot that I still want and wanted back in the day, but there was a plentiful amount of those. And there was always fun shopping for those figures. There's just a lot. And that was another great one where you kind of mix up with people. All right, bring your Pokemon, I'll bring mine, and we'll battle. But I didn't use those too many in Toy Wars. They kind of did their own thing. But, the Pokemon craze was just insane at that time. And it's still, insane thinking about it retrospectively. But just the desire you got to catch them all. Just have those and just let your imagination run free. VHSs weren't, there wasn't a lot of Pokemon VHSs. Definitely wasn't DVD and streaming service at that time. So, you'd watch the show on WB and then go and play with the figures that you had and go off and have little spin-off adventures and whatnot. But yeah, Pokemon, a lot of great memories of those toys. It's my number 2. And my number 1 is a great variety of toy lines from a company called Toy Biz. And it was their Marvel superhero toy line. Toy Biz was incredible. Actually, I don't think have I mentioned them at all. Oh, WCW did had Toy Biz, or Toy Biz had WCW, excuse me. But the Marvel stuff was top notch, god tier when it comes to having toys, producing toys. I had them. I felt like I had so many. There was a never-ending collection of Marvel toys coming my way. Whether it was the regular size ones, whether it was those awesome 10-inch deluxe action figures that they had. I always had a plentiful amount of Marvel toys. Whether it was all the Spider-Man stuff, all right, because there was a lot of Spider-Man stuff to go around. X-Men had a huge line of Toy Biz toys. I mean, huge. Just from the animated series alone was insane. You know, I had having Gambit and Cyclops and Wolverine and Iceman, like variations of Iceman, and a lot of the villains. I had a cool Magneto one where the helmet came off, and oh God, I miss those toys. But not only that, Fantastic Four, wow, which I'm very, very fond of. Had that. Had a lot of those figures. I had a really cool Incredible Hulk one where the top was like super rubbery, but it was big. And there was actually a little Bruce Banner figure that you can slide into the back of it. And he would fit inside your Hulk toy, which I thought was mind-blowing to me at that point in time. A toy inside of a toy. It's like Toyception. I had a cool Venom one that was just huge, massive. And it was from a Venom versus Juggernaut storyline, and he had a bunch of heads on it and stuff. But this was all Toy Biz. Toy Biz put all this out there into the world. And their Marvel line is top notch. I never fail to see these toys out there in the resale market. There's some that I would definitely drop some money to get again because they was really cool. But yeah, just such a beloved fondness for Toy Biz, Marvel, and actually this whole list, which is now complete. So there it is, everybody. The top 10 toys that made me.